Hey everyone, it's Big Drew, and this is the Bear Down Ball Out podcast. I want to hop on here and do a quick video and share my experience working at an NFL Combine training camp. So I was living in Miami at the time. This is back around 2010, and I was obviously really into sports and great athletics and kind of really into performance training. And I had the opportunity to spend a couple seasons working at a very, very large, popular NFL Combine camp. They would come down in the winter. They would rent out one of the college facilities. So the first year I worked there, they rented out FAU, Florida Atlantic University. The next year they rented out FIU, Florida International University. So FAU is actually up in the Boca Raton area, so you're a little north of Fort Lauderdale. They had a huge outdoor football fields, about two of them side by side, and then an indoor, obviously, training center, gym, weight room. Weight room was really small, pretty old, pretty inadequate, if we're going to be really honest. But the practice fields were great, and they were huge. And I was really excited, obviously get out there, kind of get dirty, get in with the guys. And my first couple years there, and it was an amazing opportunity to really see how these guys train and how they prepare coming up for the NFL draft. So the setting was that they'd actually have about 20 to 30 players would come down and train. Most of them would actually drop out of college. So they just finished their final season in college. Could be their junior year, could be their senior. They just finished December. Some of them played in bowl games. And their agents would pay to have them come down to camp. So this is before NIL. And we'll get into at the end of this how NIL can change how this works. But the agents would pay for these draft or these college guys and pay for their hotel. They'd pay to have them a rental car. They'd pay the weekly dues to the training camp facility out of their pocket, obviously investing in their athlete and hoping that the athlete gets signed, gets drafted, gets signed, and then, of course, the sports agent gets a percentage of their annual dues, their salary. So it's a big risk for these agents because if a guy doesn't get drafted, he doesn't get signed, doesn't get a contract, these guys have spent a lot of money on these kids, so they got to pick who they work with and which guy is going to be, the best athlete. And all these agents, of course, are all fighting over the top first rounder, second round draft pick guys because those are pretty much locked in, sure deals. So they got to really, really go over the top for those guys and spend a lot of money to kind of keep them happy. They can be some prima donnas. The first, second rounders can really be some egotistical prima donnas for athletes because they've been number one since sixth grade, seventh grade, high school, college. They're always number one. It's just kind of how they went. Well, this combine camp that I worked at specialized probably in that middle round of draft pick guys. We worked with a lot of third rounders, fifth rounders, sixth rounders, and even the undrafted guy who usually gets a contract after the draft to go and try out for teams. And they might make the practice squad, they might even make the real team, or they might not make a team at all. Every guy coming out of college who plays ball, who's a real good player, all think they're going to make the NFL. They all think they're the best ever. That's just how their life has been until they finally come into combine camp and and they see the other players. Day one of combine camp is an amazing, amazing experience. You are literally talking about the best athletes, some of the best physical specimens on this planet, these men come into this camp and you literally see natural selection. I'm talking Darwinism. guys. Like if you look up the term Darwinism, natural selection, you get the best of the best, eyeballing the best of the best. This guy's from Texas A&M. Some other guys from Ole Miss. You got another player coming in from Tulane. Someone's from Rutgers. All these guys from different schools. Some of them know each other. Most of them don't. And you like, let's just say the receivers. You put all the receivers together day one, and they all start running their 40-yard dash, and they all start doing some of the drills. And real quick, natural selection happens where all of a sudden one or two alphas really separate themselves from the pack. And whether they're purposely trying or whatnot, they're just faster. They're stronger. They got the swagger. They got the, just the whole package as an athlete. And then you can see a couple of the other guys, their eyes glaze over and they just realize that they're not the best athlete on the field, that there's other dudes that are better than them, and that literally they might not make the NFL, and their dream is shattered. Like it's shattered. They work their way through the rest of the camp, but in the back of their head, they kind of know like they're not going to make a team. Like, who's going to draft me over this guy? Look at this guy over here. He's banging out 4.3 40s on the first day. I can barely even hit a 4.7. I'm just trying to get my numbers down to make it look good. So, if you've never worked there, if you've never been around the athletes, day one, imagine all these dudes from all kinds of places, all different schools, all different backgrounds, coming together and working out together. And instantly, some of the guys separate, and you're like, okay, that guy's a pro. This guy is going to be a pro. And you're like, this guy, he might make the squad. He's probably going to be on the bench. A couple injuries and a couple plays happen. Hey, he's in the game. But that's how it goes down. Yeah, it's wild. And we all think we're great athletes until you see some of these guys too. And every one of them has a freakish physical trait. Like it might be a linebacker whose forearms are just huge. When you look at him, you're just like, whoa, okay, I thought I was strong. But like this guy's forearms are huge. Or a lineman who's got hands that are twice the size of something you've ever seen. Just mitts. And he's just posting guys left and right. And, again, a receiver that's just got the fast twitch muscles. They're cutting, they're moving, they are flying faster than you could ever imagine. When you sit in your armchair quarterback and you watch an NFL game on Sunday, everything looks really easy and, the field. But when you see it in person, without the pads, shirts off, just in the real, in the raw, you're like, whoa, this dude is a bad dude. He is a straight athlete, like king of the jungle, amazing. So we would work out in the morning. We would do a lot of positional drills and combine drills, and we'd train the 40-yard dash. We train the L cone. You train the shuttle. You train the vertical jump. And there's a lot of tricks and things to learn. Performing at those drills, it takes a certain amount of fast twitch muscles and a certain amount of sports performance. And then it also just technique. So, you can really improve your stats and you can really move up on the draft board just by having really, really, really good technique and knowing some of the secrets to the drills. I don't want to share quite the secrets yet. Maybe another video and how we kind of really work some of the drills to get the best time, to get the best bench, to get the best vertical. I'll hold off on sharing some of those secrets with you guys. But we work positionals. We'd have all kinds of different NFL guys come in, cornerbacks to work with the cornerbacks. We'd have different quarterbacks would come in, work with the quarterbacks, and they'd really get, a lot of positional work because again they're away from their team now. There is no Texas A&M here to help them. It's them as a man, as an athlete, trying to make the league. So now this is the end of December all the way up until draft, which at the time was around March. I think it's even moved to April now. So they are grinding for 2 or 3 months straight on their own as an athlete, not with their college team, and trying to get their stats all the way to the best they can to then go to the NFL Combine. Now, a lot of the guys don't even have an invite to the Combine. The Combine's only about 300 players, I think, rough or take, So you got 2,000 guys coming out of college that think they're going to make the pros, and only 300 get a chance to go to the Combine. So they have a lot of satellite combines now where guys get a workout and do their pro days that they kind of organize themselves and they kind of run through a script that they create themselves to try to get in front of scouts. And they're looking for a scout to impress and have that opportunity. And scouts would sometimes show up at camp and they'd have these guys run a drill. And there'd be times where guys would literally, slip on the drill and crumble under the pressure because the scouts are watching. And those scouts, they're looking at thousands of players. They just move on. This guy, they cross that name off and they move on to the next guy, the next cornerback they're looking for, the next linebacker they're looking for. They're like, no, and they'll ask these guys to do different drills and give them instructions. And even if the guy fails the drill, that's okay. But they want to see how they respond to the instructions. They want to know if they're coachable. They want to see how they address the problems and if they're able to overcome the problems. So just the dynamic of how everything works. And it's a really fascinating experience. I had such a great time working at the Combine camp. Year two, we're down at FIU, and they had just built a brand new stadium, beautiful turf stadium. So we got to, use the actual turf for most of our mornings working out, and the guys were just, performing. It was a really, really, really good performance. They had a world-class weight room they had just built. So again, now we're really just crushing the weights, stacking on muscle, leaning these guys down. Every meal was taken care of. So we knew what a player needed for calories. We knew what a player needed for proteins, for carbs, for fats. And it's a different meal setup for maybe a lineman who's trying to add weight than maybe a tight end who's trying to lose weight. Some of these guys, come in college, they're kind of chubby, maybe not the best athletes. They were just big in college, so they're normally bigger than everybody else. But we had a couple guys who really needed to drop weight and look a little bit more athletic. Because again, you're playing against grown men in the NFL, 25, 30-year-old beasts. We're training 21-year-old kids. So if you're a little chubby when you take your shirt off, a scout sees that right away. This is the meat market. The NFL Combine is a straight up meat market. When they have to get in front of scouts, it's, hey, whip off your clothes, get down to your underwear. I want to see what I'm looking at. And these guys, it's about as real deal as it gets. It's serious. It's, they're looking at 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures worth of making money. So if a team's going to invest in a guy, they want to know what this guy is underneath the hood. What else? And every year you have a couple guys who think they're a lot better than they are and who are cocky and who don't follow the program and don't follow the script. And they don't get the results that they should because they always have cruised through life as the best and the best. And they get here and they think they don't need to do it. But the real thing is they do. And those are the guys every season through camp who don't succeed, who maybe get a practice squad contract and who get cut from the practice squad right away because they're just not taking care of themselves. They're going out at night trying to act like they're cool and not, here to work out. They're coming in tired. They're coming in sluggish. They're not doing their ice baths. They're not doing their foam rolling, their stretching, all that little stuff that you got to do on your own once you leave camp. I can tell if a guy has done it or if they haven't. Because if he has done it, he's getting the results. Our program was scripted down from every minute of the day from 8 a.m. when they got there to 5 p.m. when they left. Every single exercise we do, every single drill that we do, and you get results. Program is proven. Hundreds of guys have gone through this program that I worked for, and hundreds of guys into the NFL. So if you're coming in, benching 10 times, you're leaving benching 22 times. You came in running a 4.7, you're leaving running a 4.3. And your numbers are great because you followed the plan. And there was always a couple guys each season who would follow the plan, who would do the work, and who would move up in stock from their draft. They would look like an undrafted guy, maybe a seventh round pick. So all of a sudden, their name's getting called in the NFL draft in the third round, in the fourth round. We had guys going out there winning Super Bowls their first year, their second year, because they put in the work at combine camp to make their stats jump off the page to finally get drafted. It's such an integral part for these guys for that 2 or 3 months. And it's kind of like driver's ed getting your license, where you're like, I'm never going to do these things ever again. I'm never going to run the L cone drill. I'm never going to have to run a shuttle once you're a player and you get drafted. But you still got to learn how to do a parallel park. You still got to learn the rules of your driver's license, just like these guys have to. So there's always a lot of debate. Is the combine, does it actually show who's going to be a good player? Because 50% of the guys drafted in the first 2 rounds usually are out the league. They're done. They don't make it. They're taped in from college, look great, but they get to the pros and they end up being terrible. So half the drills of the combine, yeah, you could say, oh, that doesn't show that he's a great football player. It doesn't automatically, just because he can bench 22 times, doesn't mean he's a great football player. But if you can't bench it 10 times, it usually says, hey, you're probably not athletically gifted enough to even be on the field with these grown men. If you can't run a 4.8 as a tight end nowadays in this league, you're probably not fast enough to be on the field with these men. Because again, a linebacker can cover you running a 4.8. You're not beating a cornerback if you're running a 4.8. So while that debate, are all the tests that you do during the combine relevant? It's a 50-50. Some of them are not necessarily relevant. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to succeed in the league. But a lot of times those tests will guarantee that you won't succeed, and that's big. If you're a receiver and you got a 24-inch vertical, you're not going up catching any ball in the fourth down. Going up high and trying to bring a ball down. It's not happening. If you can only run a 4.7, it's not happening. So it's really, really interesting, the NFL combine, of how it kind of plays in. Now with NIL money, these guys are making $300,000, $500,000 a year. A couple of them are making millions of dollars a year as an athlete, as a football player in college. So I can probably see how the NFL combine experience is going to change, because instead of having an agent that you need him to get you a car, you need him to get you workout clothes and cleats just to work out in, because you're not with the team. No one's providing this stuff anymore. You don't need an agent anymore to do those things, because you're bankrolling with $500,000 a year as a college player. So these college guys should be investing in themselves. They should be hiring, stretch trainers. They should be hiring performance physical athlete training. They should be paying for massage therapists, not the dirty kind, but literally massage therapists, and doing hot tubs, cold plunges, all kinds of different things, working on their diet and paying it out of their own pocket, because now they got money. So a little of that pressure is off of needing the agent and having to kind of go through that kind of format. But then you can also see that some guys might be a little lazy. Maybe they already got money in their pocket, so they're going to say, hey, I'm going to get to the NFL. Sure, 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 sure. And they're going to be cocky and they're not going to do the drills like some of those guys I talked about because they got money, because they got NIL, and they've already got paid. So it'll be interesting to see when now that the college athlete and the money has changed of how they train on their free time when they don't have a boss, they're not on college teams, they don't have an NFL team yet, they're on their own. They got a big social media account, they got a big ego, they can do what they want, they already got a few mil in the bank. Are they going to train? Are they going to work out from December to April every day, all day, and knock it out and crush their, combine goals and look great in front of scouts, do their interviews, get drafted, go to the NFL and live their dreams, and eventually win some Super Bowls and make $100 million because that combine camp is important. So I had a really great experience. If anybody has some questions in the comments, you can drop them. I don't know if I'm ready to share secrets of how it worked. I can drop some names of some big time quarterbacks and some big time players I've had a chance to work with and go through. Um, I don't want to throw anybody else under the bus, but the NFL combine experience is real, it's important, and it's a game changer from some guys. So just wanted to jump on, share that. I'll probably maybe do a couple other videos about it and get into details of some things. Um, but bear down, ball out, have fun.